was gonna say a question about assignment two. So I thought it would just maybe do an overview of what kind of I'm thinking. So like communication strategy and the rubric, and like if you don't use the rubric to design your assignments, like that's how you maximize the marks. Like that's how all the instructors mark stuff. So like the communication strategy from your textbook, which is the disability management in the workplace textbook, the one that's a bunch you learn in a lot of classes. So the kind of gold, yellow, and green colored. It's reminds me of U of A colors, but the that has pretty much the communication strategy in it, and also like it's a good idea like what your paper's about. You just write about like an introduction, like just an introduction, just saying why you're writing this paper, like you're developing a return to work plan for David and why you're trying to do that. And some other little things like, yes, I'll overview is like return to work the first time you use it in a paragraph, put brackets and put the RTW in, and then for the rest of the paper you just can use RTW instead of return to work. So like who are the main stakeholders that you have to communicate the plan with? So like just think about that, like it's in the textbook, but really like you got employees, workers, like the OHC may be involved, their injured worker, management, the healthcare people like that you're going to talk to. This is probably a WCB claim, so there's a bunch of stuff like that. Like I'm not doing your paper for you, but that's some of the main stakeholders that are involved. And then like what's your role in this? Like who is the disability management coordinator? Again, it's ideally when you write stuff out like a paper, you don't want to use your first person, like you're writing about yourself in the third person disability management coordinator. And then when you're trying to support your opinions, I'll just like use an example here real quick. So here's like a good sentence as an example of this is like this person, like so they're talking about our TW coordinator, return to work coordinator, and what does he do? Well, or she do, what does the person do? Is it's from the textbook. So this person referenced the textbook, and that's the NIDMAR textbook again is the green one. Guy also referenced the course textbook, which is fine to do, right? And then so you're going through, looking through, answer that, go back to rubric, job description, allow duties. So in the you just don't copy paste the what jobs the guy did, like talk about what criteria are allowed or not allowed from the doctor in the plan. And then then the job demands analysis, the JDA. You can put that in the appendix, like and if you're not really familiar with an appendix, kind of how it goes with the document is sorry. So you have your like title page, which I don't have a title page, then your paper, your references will be like here, and then the appendix is like at the end, and then that's where you can put the JDA on. Import the JDA file, don't have it as a separate file because writing a paper. So there's a couple of things you could do is you can import the like a PDF as a picture. So you can go to like snipping tool, like snip, and then turn the PDF into a JPEG and then import it that way. The other thing you can do with a PDF is just find one real quick. You can open up PDFs as a Word file. So like this is a rubric, like fatigue management. So if we go into Word, open, browse, Yeah, a lot of files. So this one, if we open it up in Word, it'll actually, like, you can copy paste whatever you want. So like that's kind of the secret for that is just open that. Open. We get this thing, Word will convert the PDF into an editable Word document. So that's one way of getting a PDF into a Word document. So now you can copy paste this and then you can put it into your assignment, right? So just like, there you go, right? Obviously, this is not the right document. Sometimes the formatting can be messed up when you do this, but generally, if the document looks like it was a Word document originally, it can to and from a PDF pretty good. So yeah, it's not worried about that anymore. Some other stuff then going through. So like when you're writing the job demands analysis, kind of what I would do for that is, if you're talking about the appendix, you can just say what the issue is and then say, and I guess his name was David, not Bill. And then put bracket appendix A in if you want to reference what you're talking about. Like, what are you talking about? And like, what's the plan for this? Can be all in that. And then kind of what else was I going to talk about? All right, too many files open. Yeah, so if we take a look at the marks, these initial things, probably like if it's 10 out of 10 marks, you're probably looking at a page, like 10 sentences, especially when you put in the references about like where you're getting the stuff from. The big thing I always tell people is if you were putting in your paper like I think, I believe, it kind of to the reader is like, well, why do I care? Kind of, like, where are you getting this information? Is it from a textbook? Is it from another company? Because it has a lot more credence if you're coming up with ideas and saying this worked at GM or Ford or whatever, then just I think this is a good idea. Like, who are you? Why is this a good idea? Right? Like, and this is the same when you work at a company and you're the safety person. If you're proposing any idea, it's a lot better and stronger to be like, this is my proposal because it came from this other place and was successful there, than just like I have ideas. And it's like, well, why are your ideas better than anyone else's, kind of, right? So you always want to support them. And that's kind of what you're always thinking of, right? So there are some things you can do too, like the return to work plan. Like, each one of these is worth about 20 marks. I would estimate to get full marks and fully answers, it's going to be about 2 pages for each plan. So the initial return to work is about 2 pages, the intermediate is about 2 pages, and then the permanent is going to be about 2 pages or longer, possibly. And then yeah, like that's kind of that. That's the bulk of your marks. So in the rubric, it said it like the document should be 12 pages or under. I'm not going to deduct marks if it's under. Like, this is actually can be quite long, this thing, especially when you double space it. It could be like quite long. And then there's no marks for it, but it's always a good idea to kind of have a concluding paragraph about like the key steps about having, like, with David, you're going to have a initial, intermediate, and then long-term plan for having him successfully return to work. That's what the paper's about. So like have a conclusion paragraph with that. Like, you can have a header that says that conclusion and then have stuff underneath on what the goal is for David, short term. Like, and again, like that's just really quick is that. Then like the references again. How are we going to do this? Well, if you're really confused with references, like I've made movies on it. There's a bunch you can. I've made movies on it. Refer to my channel kind of for those. There's also other ones in there. The other thing, if you really are like confused, probably reference stuff from the course. So go into the student guideline at the start of the course and get the references from there. That's not a lot of marks, but it's like, why lose those marks? Like some of you put a lot of effort into your reports, and then it's like you're kind of losing marks for silly stuff. Other thing I'd recommend doing always is have somebody else proofread your document before you submit it. Like, you don't want the guy marking your assignment to be the one proofreading it for you. Get somebody else to read it, like, especially if you're prone to making really common grammatical mistakes. Learn how to not do them. It's I always didn't like proofreading my own documents. I was always like kind of embarrassed when I wrote stuff, and it's a good idea to proofread your own. Like, that's another thing is, like, when you have a job, you don't want your boss to be proofreading your document, like, right? Like, they'll be like, kind of, why am I paying you for this? So it's a good idea to proofread your own document, print it off, read it yourself to see if there's any errors, and then get somebody else to read it and see if there's any errors, and find somebody who's you can learn from, and that can help, right? Yeah, I don't know what else to say about that. That's my free advice for that. Like I said before, the referencing, I know a lot of people are probably like, why is this guy always talking about that? It's just strengthening your argument, right? Like, you're saying this occurs because this occurs, and an answer is from this, right? Like, it's kind of, it sounds complicated, but not really. Like, an example would be like, why do we use respirators? Well, it's required by legislation. The long-term outcomes are we're going to have big WCB claims, right? So, like, you'd reference the legislation, then you reference WCB for what the cost could be for a long-term disability cost, and then you can reference a company that's implemented a respirator program. There you go. So you reference the regulations, reference what the problem is, reference what the solution is, and then that's it. Like, so you're saying an outside problem is the regulations are not being met. Here's our solution. Here's where I got the idea from, right? And it's not about you, and it's also like removing conflict, kind of, because if you're saying it's your idea and it doesn't work, then it's all on you, right? So you kind of always want to have that third party, like, hey, like, we have to do this to meet legal requirements. We want to do this for due diligence. We want to do this. So other things that, like, I notice, make sure the paragraphs are always indented. Try and think through who David could be interacting with, right? Like, anyone that comes into contact with David, and then also the people that are interacting with those people might need to know about his situation, right? Like, a senior manager might do a walkthrough of the floor and be like, why is this guy doing something totally different than what we hired him for? And, you know, the reason for that could be talked about very quickly, and the fact, like, yeah, we have this guy returning to work, right? There's a few things like that. I kind of rambled a bit. I'll be honest, this is probably the second time I've made this video, just because I kind of talked during the last one. Use the textbook, use the resources from the course. Like, the course is about disability management, the assignment is about disability management. So use the resources provided in the course. If you've been doing the readings, you've read the textbook and you've been reading the assignment, like the hyperlinks, you should probably understand fairly well what to do. It's just kind of knowing how to do it and getting that cursor going and start the referencing. That's our thing I was going to really quickly show is, which I've shown in other videos, but it's always good to remember this stuff, is if you go to like the CCOHS and like return to work plan, okay, I'll just pick this one, right? So this is a course, so I'll take the mental health one. It's good enough, right? So here's a real quick one here. I'm going to Word. So I just copy pasted the hyperlink. If you just go Control V, that'll be the name. Remove hyperlink. Then if you put in text only, it'll have the URL. You go back to the website. No, this is not about mental health, but the name of the organization is here. This was last updated 2017. Like, I'm not referencing the stuff to APA style. Like, it's the assignments I got were done in a way I kind of just wanted to show people a way of referencing rather than the best way. That was listed at the front, but it's a start. So, and then is it the same font? So those can tell. Other way is doing that, use the painter and then just change it so it's the same color. And then, yeah, this is lowercase. Then we italicize this. Paragraph. Hanging there. So if you didn't see how I did that, I just went, I right click, paragraph, and then did hanging, and then it's offset like that. The APA style is supposed to be double space, so you can just paragraph. I've never shown it double space before. It's just kind of, like I said, I was more trying to show people how to kind of do a system rather than the system, if that makes sense. So it's again a quick thing on how to reference, but and then yeah, hopefully there's not a lot of questions. I'm not sure how much viewership there'll be for this assignment, for this video, but it's kind of a start. And my free advice too is try and do assignments like 2 days ahead before they're due. And then, yeah, then you have the time, they can print it off, not think about it for a few hours, read it. Read it with no emotion. Think of it as like you're marking somebody else's assignment. Review what the rubric says to see if you've answered all the questions. Read your assignment. Make sure all the things are answered, and you'll do well. That's kind of the gist of writing a paper. And then, yeah, like have somebody else proofread it, and then you can go through and make sure there's no mistakes, and it makes sense to them, right? The outside reader. It's important if you're not really comfortable in writing the papers and getting better at it, because like reports, especially a big organization, are quite common that you have to write. So that was kind of a rambling talk, and I kept going. So I apologize for that, but hopefully this was maybe beneficial to someone. Bye.